For me, it doesn't matter how many degrees I have or how many times I dropped out of school, which was 3 times, or how devoted I am as a mother or a wife or how faithful I am. I always feel like I've just come up a little too short. Like I'm maybe either not enough or I'm too much.
Welcome to Journey with Dr.J. No destination, just the journey. This isn't just a podcast, it's a journey. And it's one we don't just listen to, but we live together. Wherever you're at on your journey, keep going, keep growing, and never lose that fire inside that lights the path towards hope.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to Journey with Dr. J. We are here in my hometown of Phoenix, Arizona, kicking off this podcast vlog. I am so grateful for everyone tuning in, either watching or listening in. This has been years in the making, and I'm so grateful for everyone who is here and everyone who's going to share today. You're going to hear poetry, you're going to hear stories, and we're going to talk about the individual and collective journeys that we go on. And a lot of this will be things we don't usually talk about or maybe know how to talk about, and we're just going to journey together. As we get started, I want to share a poem that I wrote. I love poetry. I don't always know how to communicate things I feel, even as someone who's spent her entire adult life professionally speaking. When it comes to my feelings, I still hesitate, even as like a professional. And poetry is a way where I can say things I don't always know how to say. So this piece is called I Waited. I waited and I waited, and I even waited tables while I waited. But my dreams had been sedated. I was seeking a kind of success that could change my family's address. I ran in circles from myself, dodging every other temptation to get there quicker by doing it like everyone else. So I wrote to rewrite the wrongs I had to fight. And I spoke when no one else would, so the generations after me knew that they could. I even allowed myself to serve and to care for those who exploited my heart and treated me unfair. I stood firmly even when I was being held back. I ignored the fine print explaining how my qualifications would always just lack. I just kept waiting for my chance, for a choice, for the acknowledgement of my voice. I waited and I waited until I realized every direction I went would always be invaded by them waiting for me to fail. We're bringing the mic over to another audience member here.
The biggest thing was, I don't know if you ever read Dr. Seuss's, the places I'll go or you'll go, and the waiting room. I read it to my daughter often. As you were reading that poem, it made me think of like almost this trap of waiting, how often people tell you to wait rather than just do.
Thank you so much. So that poem for me, there was a line that talks about my qualifications would always lack. And for me, it doesn't matter how many degrees I have or how many times I dropped out of school, which was 3 times, or how devoted I am as a mother or a wife or how faithful I am. I always feel like I've just come up a little too short. Like I'm maybe either not enough or I'm too much. And it still makes me hesitate professionally, personally. Can I love my husband just a little bit more? Can I open up just a little bit more vulnerably? Can I pursue some of the things like this dream that I have and not be so scared? Can I do things that terrify me more and more each day so that I can keep growing in the ways I feel called and led to grow? So I really wanted to make this journey about those things that I still am going through, because I don't always have it all together. This venue even was last minute. We almost didn't have it, but thankfully we had a friend just show up and make it happen. And there are just so many things in the way of us pursuing what we are passionate about if no one has done it before, or maybe they just won't do it like you'll do it. And so it can be really scary. I would love to introduce a few people who have been on my journey since I was in the womb. They are people who've been a part of my heartbreaks, my crazy days. We have done everything together, gone to funerals, buried people we love, and we have journeyed together. So I want to bring my sisters. We got Tamra, also known as Tam Tam. We got the oldest in the middle, Winnie the Pooh, also known as Windy. And then down there in the corner, we've got Brianna. I was really terrified to do this podcast because I knew I wanted it to be interactive and I wanted it to share parts of my journey that I don't normally do professionally. So I'm like, who better than to do it with my sisters, my hermanas? We are part of a blended family. We have different dads, some of us do. We have different beliefs. We have different professional pursuits. We have different roles in our families. One of us lives in Peru. Point to who you think it might be. It's this one on the corner. One lives in Utah. One lives here in AZ, representing everyone in the room. And then I live in New York. So we're also spread out geographically. And yet we still always find a way to come back to each other. Before I introduce them a little bit more, I just want to share that most recently I was able to get a book deal, which was an amazing dream of mine. Shout out to the 5 Habits of Hope. The kicker is I needed to finish the first draft in the first weeks of my daughter's birth. And I was nursing every 2 hours around the clock. And each of them, including my mom, took turns flying in to help me with the baby. And also were there before to help set up the nursery. Because y'all know I don't do well at those things. But I just want to take a little moment. I'm already getting emotional.
I know, right?
Like, I pray that if someone doesn't have a biological sister, that they have that kind of support at some point in their life. Because I wouldn't have been able to do that, which propelled me to this part of my journey without these ladies and my mom. I love you guys.
Love you too.
Now, Asha, we're going to play a quick little game.
Which one of the 4 of you matches this description best, okay? I'm going to start easy. I'm going to start predictable. Who was the troublemaker growing up?
Not me.
I understand my point.
Seems like we have an answer there.
Start.
Which sister is the most likely to start drama, but also be able to smooth it over?
Me.
I don't know. That one's
Could it be a
tricky.
tie?
The answer, we plead the 5th.
Okay. Oh, very good choice.
Yes.
Okay, I know we'll get into your stories in a little bit, but which sister has changed the most since childhood?
Ooh.
Look at your big eyes.
A clear answer. Here she is. Here she is today.
I'm losing.
All right, now let's go a little more lighthearted. If one of you would survive a zombie apocalypse, which sister would it be? Okay.
I'm voting myself. I'm voting you.
She's the brain.
Yes.
The brains and the brawn.
Yeah.
We call her the steroids to my scrawny. So you might be too.
I got your back. You got my back.
Okay, just a few more for you. So time is a sensitive subject for me. I am always running late. Point to the sister who's always 10 minutes late, but who's worth the wait.
Oh, I got you.
See you. Okay, we're mixed reviews.
Okay, all right.
Mom, what's the answer to that? Sandy! It's my children.
Sure, yeah. We'll take that excuse. Now tell me, which sister would accidentally start a cult?
Are you bringing me or your mom?
All right, I have just 2 more for you. Point to the sister who's most likely to turn a family fight into a group therapy session.
Brianna.
Well, hold on now. It's
You're
like a
so
Spider-Man.
mediating though.
You're my twinsy.
I'm a little more feisty. She's more like, bring us all together.
Now, I don't want to start a fight with this last one, but
Okay.
which sister is the funniest sister?
All of us.
Me.
All of us. I don't know. There's no
Me.
clear answer here.
Yeah.
You think it's Bree?
She's a good second behind me. You 2 are trailing 3rd and 4th.
We're not funny? I think I'm really funny. Okay, I guess not. Thank you, Asha, for those really strange, interesting questions. Well, as sisters, you know, or anytime you are close to someone in your life, you go through a lot together. You're exposed to a lot of what they're exposed to. And for us, we had a lot of laughs. We've had a lot of joy. We've celebrated each other's weddings. I almost didn't survive yours because I was very sick. We've been a part of every big moment, birthday parties, all the things, but we've also experienced the more difficult and traumatic things in life as well. Our family has been through a lot. There are members of our family who are hit by a drunk driver. There are members of our family who have struggled with addictions. We've lost people we love to addictions, and we've been together through so many things, way too many funerals. And we've experienced big traumas, tiny traumas, and it really shaped some of the roles that we took on as siblings. So I'm curious for each of you, which role, like how did the things that we went through, good and bad, kind of shape your role as a sister or a sibling? Because we also have 2 brothers. There are 6 of us.
There are 6 of us total. Yeah. I guess since I'm talking, again, my name is Wendy. I am the oldest, not the old one though. I would say I was always the responsible one and the second mother. So that pretty much carried through all of the siblings that I were considered my own. So that's kind of weird, but since I was the oldest, yeah.
I guess I go next because I'm the second. So I am the second oldest. My name's Tammy. And my role has kind of always been, I guess, the perfectionist of the group, the kind of like goody two shoes, so I've heard. But just kind of keeping that determination to like, I guess, go for perfection, lead as a good example for like the younger kids, and just kind of, yeah.
AKA the moral compass.
Yeah, true.
So I'm the baby, which in that sense, I'm so fortunate because every part of my life, I had someone to go through. And if I look back in life, I went to her for this. I went to her for this. I went to you for this. So I got a little piece of the tools from all of them. So I'm very fortunate in that sense. And even to this day, I always like, any best friend I have is going to be like, has my back, my caretaker. And I think that's from being caretaken from my sisters. So yeah.
I would say my role, I think we could all agree, I kind of was like the rebel without a cause, wilding out, and they just picked up the pieces of my crazy self. They still take care of me, as you all know. They just helped me out raising my daughter. But now it's for more positive reasons, whereas before it was me just wilding out, kind of doing things that were really unhealthy and even dangerous, and then being there to kind of help pick up the pieces. I'm curious, is just opening this up to the audience, are there any roles you related to that were shared here?
Hi, I'm Kirsten. So we're the first 2 grandkids. So I feel like we kind of set the role like for the younger cousins, because we have 13, I believe. But even like growing up, she was like my role model. Like she played soccer, I played soccer. So it's like, yeah, I kind of relate to like having her being like the one I look up to, and my mom, like I follow in their steps kind of.
I relate to being the second mother as well. Because I am the oldest grandchild, the oldest niece, the oldest daughter. I got oldest everything, but I wouldn't change it.
Love that this is a family journey. So now that we are older, we have children of our own, what are the roles in your life now, and how have they impacted the journey you're on?
Am I up then?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess it's going to get real quick. So right now I'm kind of going through something pretty big. Oh gosh.
You got it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Already. I don't even know. Okay. So, my oldest son right now I guess he's in a rehabilitation center right now. So that's all positive. But he was like on his deathbed a couple of weeks ago for pneumonia and just running a fever. So, it's been kind of like a roller coaster right now. But he is definitely improving and hopefully going to come home soon. So, I mean, my role has just kind of been to like really focus on that. And I'm fortunate to have my kids at home, like totally capable of surviving without their mom, even though I feel like I'm like, I don't know how you guys are doing that, because I'm feeling like really it's tough to not be there for them. But So I guess my role right now is going to be like a caretaker. I'm kind of shifting to that, like being a nurse, even though I'm not qualified for those duties at all. But yeah, so I don't know.
I know that there's people in this room who are caretakers or have been caretakers. Can you give us a wave if that's been you or is you right now?
Right now, my mom, and I'm the youngest also in my family, and I really relate to what Bree said about learning from all of my siblings. It's a beautiful position to be in. Where that flips is when you have to become a caretaker to your parent. So my mom, a couple years ago, had a massive heart attack right when I moved home. And if I wouldn't have picked up my phone that morning, she would have died in her apartment. So I rushed to the other side of the city to go get her and took her to the hospital. She got life flighted to another hospital. She would have died right in front of me. And recently, she's struggling with all of her relationships and has nowhere to go. And everybody else has given up on her. And I'm the youngest, and now it's time to almost parent my parent. All right. And I think that I resonate with what you're talking about of your role changes over time. And it's up to you to decide, are you going to step up and step into that role, or are you going to bypass it? So it's just it's a very weird thing going from being the baby to then parenting a older sibling or your parent.
Thank you for sharing that. I think it's really interesting how the roles that we take on, they impact our relationships with people too. And seeing you go through this has just given me just so much more respect and love. And you are so freaking, shoot. I'm sorry, guys. But the way that you just drop everything for your children, it really has been a role model thing for me to want to be a mom. And I've just, okay. I would love to see if there's something that you guys maybe even connected with or different on the roles that you have and maybe how it's affected your journey right now.
Close to what you're going through. I'm not, yeah. Not as deep or sad, but I would say I'm a little bit of at a loss right now. So both of my husband and I were been together for many, many years, and we pretty much had a playbook up until both of our children graduated from the university. Well, they both did on May 1st and May 2nd. So applause for that.
Yeah.
But we only planned up to when they graduated. And now we're looking at each other like, so now what? You know, like we did all the things that we set out to do and our goals and our time, what are those called? Like a timeline of events that we were going to achieve. And we've done that. And now we're finding ourselves, without a compass. We just don't know what we're going to do. And it's pretty much, are we starting all over again? Like, what are our options? What does our future look like? No, ma'am. Sorry. I'll wait for the grandbabies, but neither one of them are anywhere near close to that. So that is something that is, changed me, is that. So, yeah.
I actually got to connect and meet someone tonight for the first time who shared a little bit with their part of their journey, and they're on a new page and a new chapter too. And it's not maybe for the same reasons, but just kind of having a blank page in front of you and finding ways to fill it and discovering new parts of yourself that maybe you've held back before because of the other roles you've had, or maybe you just forgot about, or maybe you couldn't at the time. So I think that I already know that I could definitely relate to that in this chapter of my life too. So
I'm already like fearing it with my second oldest leaving the house, and I'm just like, oh no, it's starting. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. because I'm feeling it already, and I'm
It's rough
not
stuff.
there yet.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's crazy to hear you say that because that reflects exactly back to what I just said. I kind of had these three to look up to, like, hey, this is ahead, this is ahead, this is coming. Cause right now I have three little ones and I lost my mind after the third one. I don't have an identity other than just running around with a chicken with my head cut off. But I hear you. And what I do since I was little is I take that and I seed it somewhere back in my head. And I'm like, okay, you got to prepare for that. Like, prepare for it. And I think that's been my role. And it's funny to hear you say that because I'm reflecting on that. I'm like, oh, I'm going to take that. I'm going to seed it. I'm going to root it. My journey's in a whole different place right now. But it's just funny because that's what I've done. My sister in university, she's like, go study abroad. So I went to Argentina. And she's like, I always wanted to learn Spanish. Okay, I'll learn Spanish for you.
Thanks
I
for
learned
doing
Spanish.
that for me.
I always wanted to go to Mexico City. Okay, I'll do my
Thanks for
master's in
doing that
Mexico
for
City.
me.
Okay, this and so it's just funny you say that because I'm like, okay, this is ahead. Like I gotta wait. I'm crazy right now with three little ones, but one day I'm gonna look at my partner and be like,
Yes, on that one.
what do we do now? Do we breathe? Do we rely? I don't know, but yeah.
So I'll give my notes.
Okay, pass them down.
And what is, for each of you, what is something you would share to someone who might be in a similar role about how to stay you, even though you've got all of these other people you're caring for, or maybe it's professional pursuits and that's a lot, or maybe you're navigating that's super complex. So you feel like you have to focus and you're not really focusing on you. You're focusing on what's next or what to do.
I know for me, like I've always, like no matter what has come at me, like there's been a lot of, like we've talked about death, we've talked about trauma, just things that have happened. And I've always just been like determined, like nothing is going to derail me from like what my goals are. Like I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to just push ahead. So even though like the stuff with my son Dallas, like I'm ready to like use this as a springboard to like take his health and make it, like really go forward with this and try to help him out with his health. I mean, there's so many things. So I take everything that comes at me and I just kind of say, you know what? No, this is like my way to say we're moving forward and we're going to like totally just go for it and not let it deter me. So that's kind of my thing. Nothing's going to happen. Sorry, guys, follow that up.
You're the perfect one. Everything's downhill now.
I don't know if that's a personality thing, but I'm similar in the sense you and I are both very reserved. But dang, when I have a goal, and now that I'm older, but it's like tunnel vision, like I don't see anything else. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna play D1 soccer in Hawaii. I'm gonna do it.
You did it, y'all.
I'm gonna get my doctorate's degree. I'm gonna do it.
She got that doctorate's degree.
I'm gonna live internationally. I'm gonna learn Spanish. I'm gonna do it. But I don't know if it's a personality trait or if it's just something you have something hard in life and you use it towards determination. And I think you and I are similar in that sense. But I think that's a very similar, I don't know if other people relate to that, if they use something hard for a goal and they just go for it. But that's definitely how I am. And I think you're similar.
Yeah. Maybe just thinking about this now, we saw people, and myself included, so I'm throwing myself under the bus here, who went through hard things and then kind of hurt myself. Instead of being driven in a positive way, I actually went the negative way first. It's like a miracle I'm alive at some points when I think about and reflect on where I was. And you all of us, and I'm sure everyone in this room has been exposed to some level of trauma where you had to ask yourself and make a choice of maybe if you were going to, maybe you don't. Maybe you don't. You just kind of get caught up in the emotions and you start behaving in a certain way. And next thing you know, you're known as that person. And then it's like untangling that as part of that journey. Is how do I untangle all of the negative stuff I did after seeing negative stuff? But you guys did that.
And that's kind of a common thing to kind of just let it derail you and take it internally and just kind of take that hurt to yourself, you know?
I would say don't limit yourself because you can hear the noise.
Yeah.
Can you say that one more time? That's okay. Yeah.
Don't limit yourself. You're not too old. You're not, not. Yeah. There you go. I've had to tell myself that it is not too late. If I want to go to school and pursue something that I wanted to do that I chose not to because of the responsibilities that I had or chose to do. If you want to do that, do it. If you're not happy in your job, quit it. I stayed in the same job for 23 years and I was miserable the last few years. Absolutely. And I stayed in it because that was the correct thing to do. That's what's expected of you, to be responsible. And I just chose to honor myself and sit back and realize I'm coming to a crossroads in life and I need to decide what makes me happy because I have to live my life. Nobody else is going to live it for me. And what can I do? What should I do? What do I want to do to make myself happy again? So, yeah.
Can we give it up for me, Hermanas, my sisters? In my professional work, I work with people all over the country, from students to educators to even inmates. And I hear stories of things that they struggle with in their own words, in their own handwriting, and they share it as a way to let go of that struggle. And these are actually in your hands right now. They are real stories from real people. They're completely anonymous, but they share all kinds of struggles. If there's something you just felt like connected to, or you could relate to, or it made you think about what you read, just give her a wave.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. My name is Nas.
What's up, Nas?
I come from a different country. I don't have my family here, so they have been my American family, and I'm very fortunate to have them. Very fortunate to have them. I was invited one Christmas to the family's home here in Arizona, drove out of Texas, and I loved it here. So I've been part of the family since.
Never left.
I never left. I stayed here. Yeah, I made Arizona my home, and I'm very happy about that, and I'm very fortunate to have them. Where I come from is very complex. I was born in one country. I migrated forcefully to a different country. I was born in Iran, and at age of 9, I moved to the Netherlands, where I grew up most of my life, and I chose to come to this country for different reasons. One is that I never chose the Netherlands. It was a perfect country to grow up. I had all the opportunities I wanted, and I made my best friends. But the thing was, I was forcefully moved from where I felt really good to go to this country. I remember I was 12 and I had to drive from this village in the Netherlands to the city where I went to high school. And I saw myself in the screen of this bus where I drove. And I looked at myself and I thought, what am I doing here? Who am I? And I was already questioning my identity. It took me a long time to appreciate my parents for the opportunities they created for me and my siblings, because if you have ever, read about Iran, it's really bad. In the Netherlands, I was growing up, went to my, did my high school. I was a rebel, just like Julie. I was called the black sheep of the family because I was constantly doing the opposite of what my parents expected. Because I just didn't like where I was. I was missing my family. I had a very loving family. My grandma was my mother. And so it was very tough leaving that and coming to a country where I had no clue who they were, and then starting all over. When I reached to the age of college and I was able to go to a study abroad, I just randomly chose Texas. And that was something that I wanted to have. I wanted to choose where I was going to live. Something that this card says, it says, if I could, I would start a program to help children who are struggling. I've thought a lot about it because I've always reflected on my own life, where I come from, who I am. And then now I'm here with my own children, and I have very often reflected on, I'm doing things to them that my parents did to me. I have removed them from their family. I'm living so far apart from my parents and my siblings and their cousins. And that's exactly what I did not like about what my parents did to me. But this is what I chose. I have to live with it. The other thing that this card says is I struggled because I didn't think my struggles had enough value to be heard. I went through that a lot. That's why I was a rebel. I was doing everything I was not allowed. I went and did everything you could possibly think. I was always in trouble for some random reason. We need to be able to admit to the negative, learn from it, and not repeat it. That's something I've wanted to do for my children. Yes, I hated that we lived in a country away from my, core values, from those people who love me a lot. I'm not going to regret it that I did it now to my children, being far away from my parents, because what I'm offering them here is probably not something that I was able to offer them in the Netherlands. I think we need to be able to stand up for ourselves and be able to say that some things have worked for us. There were still other things that didn't work for us. I did feel lost. And then when I came here, I have proudly say, Arizona is my home. And my motto is nothing is impossible. And I see that in this card as well. And it says, I'm possible. And I love that about this card. And that's how it resonated.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in to this very first episode of Journey with Dr. J right here in my hometown. And stay tuned for part 2, wherever you are at on your journey. Keep going, keep growing, and never lose that fire inside that lights the path towards hope. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.